Interest in yacht racing had increased greatly as a result of the first two challenges for the America's Cup. But although it was felt that Ashbury's claim to the Cup was ludicrous, at the same time many believed that he had been unfairly treated in America, and it was a waste of time and money to take a yacht over there again. It was therefore hardly surprising that no new British challenger materialised, and that it was left to others to try their hands. 5 years passed before Major Charles Gifford, Vice Commodore of the Royal Canadian Yacht Club, formed a syndicate and submitted a challenge for the already famous trophy. And when he asked for 6 months' notice to be waived, the New York Yacht Club, in a generous mood, not only assented, but also offered him the opportunity of 3 deciding races instead of 1. Where Ashbury had failed, Gifford, determined to succeed, had asked for 1 further concession. And when this was omitted from the club's reply, he wrote to them again complaining of their unfair advantage with so many yachts to choose from, and suggesting that in future they should agree to nominate just 1. Amazingly, and by 11 votes to 5, they did. Gifford's entry, the 107-foot, 32.6 metre Countess of Dufferin, had been specially designed for the occasion by Captain Alexander Cuthbert, a not very imaginative fellow who had almost certainly stolen their lines from the New Jersey's boat builder. But although he felt he had an excellent chance of winning, the Dominion newspapers were full of flattery. The Americans thought otherwise. Commanded by Gifford, but sailed by Cuthbert, the Countess set out from Ontario via Quebec early in June, and having negotiated the St. Lawrence River, she skirted the coast of Nova Scotia, arriving in New York after an uneventful passage in mid-July. The press immediately had a field day. "There's nothing foreign about her," quoted one of the leading journalists. "Her shape is American. Her rig is American. Her blocks are the Waterman Peyton of New York. Her steering gear of New York manufacture, and from stem to stern, inside and out, alow and aloft, she is simply a Yankee boat built in Canada." Perhaps that would have passed if others had not described her hull as rough as a nutmeg scraper, and her sails like the pursuer's skirt on a handspike. Indeed, to critical eyes, the Countess's many defects were more reminiscent of a clumsy coaster than of a racing schooner intent on snatching the America's Cup. And it was in the atmosphere that the New York Yacht Club set about choosing a defender from the large number of vessels believed to be capable of beating her. There were already 5 yachts on the New York Yacht Club shortlist: Columbia, Palmer, Tidal Wave, Idler, and Madeleine. But on the day of the first ever elimination race, only Madeleine and Idler showed up. Madeleine won convincingly, and the committee had no hesitation in selecting her to defend the cup. In contrast to the Countess of Dufferin, which she equalled in size, the schooner Madeleine, owned by John S Dickerson, Commodore of the Brooklyn Yacht Club, had been splendidly prepared and expertly maintained. Built as a sloop 8 years earlier, in 1868, she had since undergone extensive alterations, and from 1873, when she was said to have won every race which she started, she had built up a formidable reputation. Madeleine's first opportunity to get the measure of her opponent came in the Brenton Reef race, when the Countess, having sportingly taken on 4 other schooners over the long ocean course, finished so far behind that it was thought she had floundered. Her performance was so bad that Gifford asked for the cup races to be postponed so that he could get some new sails cut and generally get her smartened up. The New York Spirit of the Times later reported, her owner had not been here many days before. He saw that his yacht was a monstrosity. He at once called to his aid all the yachting skills which New York possessed and completely transformed his yacht. Booms were lengthened out, clouds of canvas were fitted, a full crew of the choicest Yankee tars were selected, and the best sailing master in New York was engaged. In truth, the Americans and the New York Yacht Club have been more helpful, but was it enough? It had finally been arranged to hold the first race over the New York Yacht Club inside course on the 11th of August. Madeleine had been towed down from Greenwich, Connecticut, where her copper bottom had been treated with oil and tallow to make her slide easily through the water. And the Countess, which had been hauled out at Port Richmond, had also had her bottom pot-leaded and generally given a thorough manicure. It was to be the first occasion on which the start was under canvas, and as the two contenders crossed the line and beat southwards into the moderate breeze, the audience on the 12 excursion steamers and about 20 yachts, including the Old America, were treated to a grand spectacle. Although Madeleine was not slow to show her paces, it was commendable that the Countess kept her in sight. And when the Yankee schooner, partly because of the heavy swell, overstood the lightship, Countess did by far the better turn, passing it only 5 minutes behind. But she never made up the deficit, and having lost the second race to Madeleine by more than 27 minutes, and by 19 minutes to the 25-year-old veteran America, which was on this occasion timed, the third race was then no longer needed, with Madeleine taking the 1876 America's Cup 2 races to 0. So that completes our bottom-up boats review of the 1876 America's Cup, where Madeleine defeated the Countess of Dufferin 2-0. If you've made it this far and haven't seen our previous reviews of Cups Gone By, why don't you check out the playlist where we go back to the very beginning and review all of the cups. Or alternatively, you can check out the 1881 update where Mischief takes on Atlanta.